The next morning. Beep, beep, beep. The alarm shrieks from my clock, the sound echoing like a scream inside my sleep-deprived head. I roll over and stare at the time in disbelief, eventually turning it off and slowly get up. The red numbers shine bright against my bleary vision and I shy away for a moment. When I look back, the time is the same. Still time to get up. Pressing the off button, I slide out of bed, shaking the remaining sleep from my mind. Thankfully, the bathroom is not far. I stumble over to it before my bed tempts me back. While continuing to try and ready myself for the day, tugging on my usual outfit of jeans and t-shirt, I begin gathering up my things. The morning sun blazes in through the square windows of my living room, the golden light seeping around the rest of my one-bedroom apartment. The building may be boring, flat, and made of unappealing red brick, but at least it gets a good amount of light. I glance about the room. Having lived here for years, I've kind of gotten used to how it looks. Hmm. Hmm. Sure, we'll take cozy. It took a while to find everything I needed to get the look I wanted, but I'm happy with the coziness of it. It's always welcoming to come home to the warm colors and rich fabrics dotted about the apartment. The jumble of decorations add an interesting touch, and the sofa with its many cushions always helps to make me feel instantly settled. Shrugging off the thought, I shove my things into my bag, sling it onto my shoulder, and head out of the apartment. At the station. Shuffling into the station, I glance up and almost stumble to a stop to see Douglas sitting at the front desk. In shock to find him here before me. It's hard to remember the last time he arrived before 10. Actually, the detective has just walked in, he says into the phone, smiling at me. Did you want to speak to them, Captain? Suddenly, I'm extremely glad I decided not to lie in. Okay, I'll let them know. Douglas places the phone down, turning to look at me as I wait. He says the mayor was an idiot to send you out last night, but even though you didn't find anything, it paid off. Apparently, people were happy to see you out and about. At least it wasn't a total waste then, I mutter, shrugging off my jacket and heading to my office. Inside the office, the unit is already at work, something I've grown used to walking in on the past few days. Farah glances up at me, eyes widening. Wow, did you manage to get any sleep, or is this your usual look? It's true, I do look more than a little sleep deprived. When I'd managed to catch a glimpse of myself in my car's rearview mirror, I'd balked at my reflection. Shoulders sagged, skin duller than usual, even big dark circles appearing under my light blue. Shadowed circles had been sitting beneath my light blue eyes. Not the most motivating image to see in a mirror that morning. I'm reminded of Farah's jab as she smiles towards me. This is how I look, deal with it. She grins wide. I didn't say you still I didn't say you still don't look hot as hell, detective. I let out a sigh, too tired for banter this morning. The fact that they all look bright-eyed and ready to go doesn't help the issue. Surely they only got as much sleep as I did. What's on the agenda for today, detective? Nat asks. A voice sounds from the front of the station in response, echoing into my office. Is Detective Langford here? We all glance around to see Kate Hayes' pale form hunched by the front desk. Looks like my first task is talking to Garrett's mother, I reply. Maybe she'll have some new information. And with that small hope, I head back out of my office towards Kate, bracing myself for the conversation ahead. Back in the office. As the door clicks shut, Nat springs from her seat, turning on Ava with a frown. This is ridiculous. We need to tell them the truth. No, Ava replies, her voice quiet but commanding. We've had this discussion already. Last night changed things. We'd catch the killer a lot quicker with the detective on our side. Nat continues. We've been scouring through evidence for the past few days in the hopes of finding his location in a town we just don't know, all while trying to convince the detective we've actually been trying to help them instead. Lower your voice. Ava steps forward, and though she's a few inches shorter than Nat, her presence isn't any less imposing. Nat scoffs and turns away with a shake of her head. Our job is to keep them off the trail, Morgan adds. It's not much of a surprise Morgan would side with Ava again, but it only serves to fuel Nat's annoyance. If we tell them the truth, it's possible it would only put them in further danger, Ava says, understanding of her oldest friend's frustration, but not willing to budge on this matter. Lying never did sit well with Nat. Nat frowns deeply. Keeping them in the dark could be even more dangerous. That vampire got far too close last night while patrolling. But we still managed to keep them safe, Ava counters. Oh yeah, Farah says, a smile forming as she swivels in the chair to face Morgan in the corner. Morgan took surprisingly good care of the detective. Very attentive. She grins wider. Morgan only arches a brow, puffing out a long stream of smoke in response. She still hadn't told anyone about the effect those pheromones had on the detective. It's something she'd rather not have to divulge at any point. The detective should know who they're up against, Nat continues. We have the vampire's picture. Let's just show it. Enough! Ava yells, slamming her hand down on a nearby filing cabinet, hard enough to dent the metal top. She runs her hand over her hair, a few strands having fallen loose from the tidy bun she'd knotted it into. She then lets out a sharp breath to calm the outburst. This is not up for discussion. It should be, Nat replies, though some of the fight is gone from her voice. How many innocents has this vampire killed because of non-action? They were human, Ava replies. I doubt any of them were truly innocent. The detective is here to help. It could get them killed. So could not knowing what they really face. I said no. Ava turns on Nat, each of them holding their ground. This team is under my command, which means my orders are final. Yeah, Nat, Farah chimes in, dispelling some of the bristling tension. You should know that by now. How many times have you two butted heads only for Ava to come up trumps? Nat softens a little at the words. It's true their views often differed, and neither of them are afraid to vocalize their thoughts. They should know, Nat says again, though completely defeated this time. Ava places a gentle hand on her friend's arm. But they can't. You know the agency's rules. After a long moment, Nat nods in understanding. Need some air. She then turns and leaves the room, thankful to close the door as Farah lets fly another sharp remark. At the front desk, Kate's gaze flashes to me as I draw near, her eyes bloodshot and heavy-lidded. She grips the strap of her bag, her knuckles white. Is there any news? She asks, her voice catching. I shake my head. I thought you might be here with new information. No, I just... She swallows hard, glances between me and Douglas. Glancing. Douglas shifts, visibly uncomfortable, around the grieving woman. I wondered if you've made any progress on the case. I don't want him to be forgotten. He would never be forgotten. I reply, taking a step forward to offer what little comfort I can. This case and your son's murder are my only priorities. She attempts a smile. Thank you, Jules. I don't know what to do with myself anymore. The smile cracks, her face knotting into a frown, and her breath chokes. Douglas throws me a wide-eyed stare of terrified uncertainty at the woman's sudden wailing, almost tumbling off his chair as she stumbles and leans on the front desk. Her grief is far too heavy for her to stay standing. Thankfully, Tina comes in just as the woman breaks down. Kate, what are you doing here? Tina asks. Kate manages to raise her head. I came to ask about the case. The words are barely audible between the crying. Tina lets out a heavy sigh, then glances at me with a nod. Come on, Kate, let's get you something to drink. She offers a hand, which Kate takes. The pair of them shuffle away towards the kitchen area. Bloody hell, Douglas exclaims as soon as she's gone. I'm glad you got to deal with that stuff and not me. I shake my head at the boy, turning on my heel and heading back to my office. The headache throbbing at my temples serves as a remnant of the conversation. Stepping into my office, I pause mid-step. An odd tension is crackling in the air. Ava stands at the window as usual, but her shoulders are tensed, a frown on her brow and her fists clenched. Farah and Morgan are unusually quiet, none of them looking at each other. It's then I notice a member missing from the unit. Where's Nat? Picking her wounds, probably. Farah replies, though not with the usual smile. I arch a brow at the odd reply, half growing used to the enigmatic answers she often spouts. Tina's dealing with Kate, I say, trying to dispel the odd silence. She came asking about the case's progress. Ava shakes her head. We'd make more progress on it if you didn't keep running off to speak to those people. There's a sharp brashness to her tone that's stronger than usual. Those people happen to have lost someone dear to them. My tone is just as strong as hers had been. You're a detective, not a counselor. She folds her arms, but some of the fight seems to have dropped from her. I place my hands on my hips. I'm also not just a tool to be used. I'm a person just like Kate is. Bringing emotions into your case only hinders what you can achieve. She quickly glances away, frowning in what I'm surprised to see seems like regret. Anger still flares within me at the comment. Fine, then do it your way and I'll do it mine. I march back out of the office, slamming the door with such force that the door frame trembles at the impact. Ava almost takes a step forward to stop the detective before the door snaps shut. She didn't know why she'd continued to push the argument. She'd regretted the remarks as soon as they'd left her lips. It was just the fight with Nat had set her on edge. She was going to have to smooth this over. She refused to fail Agent Langford, especially due to her own stubbornness. You're really testing your people skills today, aren't you? Farah says, rising from her place to stand at Ava's side. Being able to piss off a vampire and a human all within the space of a few minutes takes real talent. Ava snarls at the youth, who only grins in response. Down in the lab. The bleakness of the pathologist's lab is plenty warmer than Ava had been during that spat. I just don't understand why she's so hostile at times. And here I was thinking we were actually starting to work better together. I groan, rubbing my index and thumb over the bridge of my nose and then smacking open the lab doors. Verda jumps at my sudden entrance, spinning to face me with a brow raised.
Bad day?
It's nothing. I shake my head, trying to dispel some of my lingering annoyance.
Well, if that's really the case,
He says, standing from his stool and moving towards me.
I have a favor to ask.
What's the favor?
It's the hospital.
He says with a shrug.
They're still ignoring my urgent requests, and my work has been stalled for days because of it.
Okay, a bit of a delay is one thing, but this is starting to get ridiculous. I reply. I'll head over there now and see if I can't get things moving. Verda sags in relief.
Thanks, Detective. I really appreciate it.
I give a nod. I'm thankful to have a task that I can actually complete rather than standing around my office staring at the same lack of evidence I've been looking over for days. On the way to the hospital. So I probably should have told one of the team where I was going before I'd gotten halfway to the hospital, but the fight with Ava had continued to nag at me. Still, I'll have to work with them again at some point, but after just earning my detective position, I'm not eager to give up my first case to anyone, especially not someone like Ava. I glance down at my cell phone, the silver phone rocking slightly on the passenger seat of my car as I drive. Who do we call? Let's call Farah. Succumbing to my more professional side, I pull my car over in order to call Farah. I really should let someone in the unit know. After scrolling through the contacts list, I hit her name and the phone rings. They all have agency phones, having given their numbers to me a couple of days before. It clicks onto a rather generic voicemail message and I say, Hi Farah, it's Jules. I begin wiping down my jeans as I speak. Just letting you know I'm headed over to the hospital to try and hurry them along with the test results. I'll drop back at the station when I'm done and check in then. I pull the phone away, click it off and throw it back on the passenger's seat. Then I begin my journey towards the hospital once again, now with a small smile of satisfaction. It's a little way to the hospital at the edge of town, and I grip the steering wheel to guide me through the tree-lined open road. Sun strikes the windscreen. I have to blink past the intensity of it, the brightness cutting through my heavy thoughts of the team and the case. Finally, the hospital creeps into view, the flat, white building visible through the wall of stark trees. The hospital is by far the newest building in Wayhaven, built on the remnants of the first ever warehouse constructed in the town. When Wayhaven's committee, made up of the town's richest residents, led by the illustrious mayor, had taken it upon themselves to renovate it, most of the town had happily agreed. Well, until they realized renovate meant tearing down the old building and constructing the bland cream brick building with no character that now stands in its place. Still, if any building in town has to be rebuilt as new, then a hospital seems the best choice. Being taken in for surgery should be a lot less worrying in a state-of-the-art facility rather than some old crumbling wreck that maintains a feel of the past. I navigate the bend around the building into the car park, pulling into one of the visitors' spaces. It's hard to swallow down the feeling of seeing my little scratched up vehicle squeezed between two gleaming sports cars. The automatic doors slide open as I approach, and I'm greeted with the open space of the reception area. I have to say, I'm always impressed when I step inside. I never realized there was such an array of pallid greys and beige to decorate with. The waiting area lies completely empty, which isn't exactly unusual. Everyone in town goes to see Dr. Turner first, and only at his insistence do they reluctantly visit the hospital, even in emergencies. I head to the front desk when the receptionist slumps in his chair. His gaunt face, drooping eyes, and sour expression are not exactly the most welcoming thing to be greeted with. I'm Detective Langford. I swipe my jacket aside, revealing my badge. I'm here about the blood test results for the station. The man immediately stiffens, a crinkle on his nose as he eyes the badge. His wan skin reddens. Our resources are valuable, Detective. The results of the living take priority over the dead. Without the results of the and if we don't get the results of the dead soon, you may have a lot fewer living to deal with, I reply in a sharp tone. People are being murdered, and every second wasted means even more crimes could be committed. The receptionist jumps a little at this, dropping his gaze and fidgeting. Eventually, he raises his arm and points a bony finger down the hallway to one side. Take the first right, then the third door on the left. The blood technician's office is there, but I can't guarantee he'll have what you want. He's new and a bit strange. Oh god, it's Murphy. I'll take that into consideration, thanks, I say in a sharp tone and head off to follow the directions. Back at the station. The office is painfully quiet without the detective around, especially after the arguments. Bra glances up at Ava. The anger is now drained from the team leader's expression, and regret has taken its place. Even Farah isn't going to risk poking her further about it. The sound of Farah's phone chirruping from her pocket breaks through the heavy quiet, and she quickly dips her hand into her pocket to retrieve it. A voicemail alert blinks on the screen, so she listens to it with her curiosity piqued. The detective's voice echoes from the phone, and Farah's brow arches in surprise. Hi Farah, it's Jules, just letting you know I'm headed over to the hospital to try and hurry them along with the test results. I'll drop back at the station when I'm done and check in. The realization of Ava's upcoming reaction to this news makes Farah pause before letting out a sharp breath. At the hospital. The corridors are hard to navigate. Each grey flecked wall merges into the next, and the headache-inducing fluorescent lighting masks any signs of natural light that manages to find its way through the low windows that line one wall. Thankfully, it's not far to the door I need. A nearby sign points it out as the blood technician's office. The nameplate hanging askew on the door announces the lab of Dr. Gail Leeway. Okay. I give a sharp knock, waiting for a response, which comes quickly. Then I push open the door. Inside the room matches the rest of the hospital with its boring decor and color palette. The small lab is chock full with counters, each one weighed down by machines that whir and beep. Test tubes and beakers dot any available spaces left. Though I barely see much at all, the intense stench of disinfectant almost makes my eyes water. Stepping further inside, I stare at the tall figure at the end of the room. Their back is to me, their shoulders draped in a crisp white coat. When they make no move to indicate they're aware of my presence, I ask, "Excuse me." I take a half step forwards, raising my hand. "Excuse me?" The doctor swings around, his face masked by enormous goggles. He yanks them off, the elastic pinging against his gloved hands. "Yes?" "I'm Detective Langford," I explain. I don't exactly want to get off on the wrong foot with this guy if he's the one who can rush the test results through. I'm here about the blood test results the station's pathologist requested. He purses already thin lips. A shadow of stubble lines his jaw, dark against the paleness of his cream skin. The black curls streaked with grey that surround his face bob as he nods. His face is lined with age, but still handsome. "Ah, yes, I remember. The staff told me there was no priority on those and to keep them on hold until later, so I hadn't sent them out yet." "I bet they did." I shrug away the thought. "It really has become somewhat of a priority, Dr. Leeway," I reply, letting genuine urgency into my voice. "Ah, there we go, yeah. Leeway?" He frowns, then glances at the nameplate on the open door. "Oh, they still haven't changed that over." He gives a chuckle. "Then it's Dr. He springs into action when he realizes I'm waiting for an introduction. "Yes, of course, sorry." He offers his hand out after rolling off his glove, a smile wide on his face. My name is Dr. Ethan Murphy. I place my hand in his and shake it. Next chapter.